And I'm a teacher at San Marcos High School.
Awesome. So my first question for you is, what is the biggest change to your AP course during this time?
Okay, so I know you're talking about being online and stuff, but actually I think for me, the biggest change is actually the rubric, like, because it's a new rubric from last year. And so for years and years, I had a different one. I had a 9.1 and now it's a 6 point. So I kind of have to switch my thinking of like, now you have to actually, you get a point for the thesis and you get points for sophistication and points for analysis and stuff. So now I think we have to go from it was more holistic before. You looked at the whole thing and gave a grade. Now I have to actually you make sure that you guys do defensible thesis statements, and you you embed apt quotes, and you develop your analysis. So that's the biggest change for me personally. But if you're asking about being online, I guess the biggest change is just not seeing students and being able to talk to them face to face. But I have to say with Zoom, like if students stay later, I can, we talk and we can look at essays. It's just not being physically present. That's the biggest change, I'd say.
Okay. And so that kind of connects with the next question, but what's the biggest challenge you faced during distance learning?
Oh, so I have to say, and the other change is this 80, the 4x4. And so I would say my biggest challenge is keeping up with all, like being able to grade everything, and in part revision, like to give you guys enough suggestions so you could revise. Like that's my biggest challenge, is keeping up with everything.
Okay. And then contradicting that, what's the lesson that you've taken away from this time?
Well, I have to say that, I feel like, I feel even though we're online, we still can build these bonds and stuff. Like, I feel like I already know a lot of you. And I did know some of my students from before, but I feel like my unexpected lesson or takeaways that you can actually build relationships on over online. So that's made me happy.
That's great. Yeah. And so what was your first impression of distance learning, and how do you think it's impacting your students?
Okay, so distance learning is, and I think some students like it because they're not distracted by everything that's going on in the classroom. Because it's interesting, because when we do the breakout groups, there's there's going to be quiet students in breakout groups, but there's also quiet students in the classroom. So that's not, so it's not totally different. And I just the only thing that what I worry, I guess my impression, or what I worry about with distance learning and students learning, is that the fact that I think it's harder to keep students maybe accountable, like if they're not willing to do the work, if they're not taking the initiative to do the work and keep up with it, then I think it makes it more difficult for them to have all the steps to learning the skill that they need. So if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
it
I
does.
think the fact that now students have to be more responsible for their own learning and doing the work, that might, some students are very responsible, and then others might not be as responsible. So I think that might impact negatively with the learning, but I don't think, it doesn't have to. I think students can get motivated, and keep up with the work and learn it.
Okay, yeah. So my final question is, what advice do you have for students as they continue to move forward with distance learning, especially for AP students and specifically in your class?
Right. So my advice to them would be to keep in contact all the time, and to do one-on-one discussions and talking about essays. because I think this would be really helpful. Because I worked with a student earlier today. We had her essay up, and we talked through stuff, and I typed suggestions. And so, I think that would be something to take advantage of. Make sure your teacher knows that you need help, and make sure that you schedule a meeting in office hours or stay after class and talk about it. And there is one more thing. There's this new thing, I don't know if you guys know about it. It's called Paper, and it's a new tutoring service that students can take advantage of as well.
Awesome. Yeah, Mr. Dawson was just talking about that in his interview, so that's great.
Oh, you talked to him? Oh, okay. You met with him too?
Yeah, we did. So thank you so much for your time, and I'm glad we had this interview.